To save her daughter, she spent the night with a millionaire. But what he did next left her speechless. "This can't be happening," Esperanza whispered, holding the lab papers with trembling hands. "Dr. Mendoza, there must have been a mistake." The pediatric oncologist looked at her with compassion from across the table. At 45, he had delivered heartbreaking news before, but he was still not used to breaking a mother's heart. "Esperanza, the results are clear. Sofia's leukemia is progressing faster than we expected. Conventional chemotherapy is no longer helping." Espiranza Morales felt her world crumble. At 28, she had dedicated every second of her life to her 7-year-old daughter. As a nurse at the San Vicente Hospital in Medellin, she knew exactly what those words meant. "How long does she have?" she asked almost silently. "Without treatment, a few weeks. But there is one option." Dr. Mendoza leaned forward. "There is an experimental therapy in Bogota. It is new, but it has shown promising results in cases like Sofia's." Esperanza's eyes lit up for the first time in days. "What do we need to do? When can we start?" "That is the problem," the doctor sighed. "The treatment costs 50 million pesos and must be started within the next 48 hours to be effective." 50 million. The number echoed in Esperanza's mind. Her salary as a nurse was 2 million a month, and all her savings had already been spent on previous treatments. "Doctor, I don't have that kind of money," she muttered. "But I can take out a loan, sell my apartment." "Espiranza, look at me." Dr. Mendoza put his hand on the table. "I've been treating children with cancer for 15 years. I've seen mothers work miracles for their children. If there's a way to get that money, I know you'll find it." 2 hours later, Espiranza walked through the hospital corridors as if on autopilot. Her colleagues greeted her, but she barely noticed them. Her head was spinning with calculations. She'd sold her car last month. She had no jewelry, and her apartment in the Buenos Aires neighborhood wasn't worth 10 million. She walked into the room where Sofia was resting after chemotherapy. The girl was cheerful, drawing butterflies in a coloring book given to her by a hospital volunteer. "Mommy," Sofia cried, her pale face lighting up with a smile. "Look, this butterfly is for you. It's blue like your nurse's uniform." Esperanza sat down on the bed and hugged her daughter, inhaling the sweet scent of her hair, which had just begun to grow back after her last round of chemotherapy. "She's beautiful, my love," she whispered, trying to keep her voice from shaking. "Mommy, why are your eyes red?" Sofia asked with the intuition that only children have. "I'm just tired, princess. I've worked a lot today." "You know what, Mommy?" Sofia continued coloring without looking. "When I get better, you and I will fly like butterflies together, high up where there are no sad clouds." Esperanza had to bite her lip to keep from crying. How could she tell this brave girl that "when I get well" might not come? "Of course, my love, we will definitely fly very high." That night in her small apartment in the Buenos Aires neighborhood, Espiranza waited until Sofia fell asleep so she could count all the money she had. She took every bill out of her wallet, searched every drawer, every corner where she could hide something. 200 pesos. That was all. She sat on the floor of the living room, surrounded by crumpled bills and coins, and finally allowed herself to cry. She cried from helplessness, from the injustice of money deciding who lives and who dies, from the fact that she could do nothing while she watched her daughter suffer. The phone rang. It was her sister Elena, who lived in Bogota. "Espiranza, how is Sofia?" "There is news on the new tests, Elena. I need 50 million pesos in 2 days. Otherwise, Sofia will die." The silence on the other end of the line was devastating. "Sister, we don't have that kind of money. You know, if we had half, we would give it to you without hesitation." "I know, Elena, I know." After she hung up, Esperanza stared at the ceiling of her apartment for a long time. On the wall were photos of Sofia, on her first day of school, blowing out the candles at her last birthday, in a butterfly costume at the hospital party. A butterfly. Her daughter had been obsessed with butterflies since she was a child. She said they were the freest creatures in the world, that they could fly wherever they wanted, and no one could stop them. Esperanza closed her eyes and for the first time in her life allowed the unthinkable to occur to her. She had heard stories at the hospital, rumors of women so desperate that they found money in ways they had never thought of. She had always judged them, thinking that she would never find herself in such a situation. But now she understood that there was no limit to what a mother would do to save her child. She got up from the floor and went into Sofia's room. The girl was asleep, hugging a stuffed butterfly, breathing softly. Her bald head was covered with a knitted cap her grandmother had made her. "I promise we will fly together, my love," Espiranza whispered, kissing her daughter's forehead. "No matter what I have to do." The Dan Carlton Hotel stood majestically in the heart of El Poblado. Its golden light stood out against the darkness of Medellin's night. Espiranza had never set foot in such an elegant place before. The black dress she was wearing was borrowed from her neighbor Carmen, and the heels she wore were a half size too big. Her hands shook as she climbed the marble stairs to the lobby. Each step took her further away from the woman she had once been. "For Sofia," she repeated to herself. "Anything for Sofia." The hotel bar was dimly lit, with soft piano music in the background. Men in expensive suits talked quietly, sipping whiskey. Espiranza felt out of place, like a fish out of water. But despair was stronger than shame. She went to the bar and ordered a sparkling water. It was the only thing she could afford. From there, she watched the men, trying to figure out which one might be her chance. Her plan was simple: go to the one who looked wealthy, and then she didn't even want to think about it. That's when she saw him. A man in his mid-30s sat at a table in the corner, looking at documents on his laptop and drinking whiskey alone. He wore a perfectly tailored gray suit and had the kind of power that only wealth can give. But there was something else about him, something in the way his brow furrowed as he read, as if he carried the weight of the world on his shoulders. Espiranza took a deep breath and walked over to his table. "Excuse me, senor." The man looked up. His eyes were bright green and his gaze seemed to pierce through you. For a moment, Espiranza was speechless. "Yes?" he asked, closing his laptop. I need to talk to you." The words stuck in his throat. It's about my daughter." Sebastian Costilla had heard all sorts of offers in his life. Women approached him for money, status, benefits. But there was something different about this woman. There was no greed in her eyes, only pure desperation. "Sit down," he said, pointing to the chair opposite. "What's your name?" "Espiranza." "Espiranza Morales." She sat on the edge of the chair, as if she were ready to jump up and run at any moment. "I'm a nurse at the San Vicente Hospital." "And what does your daughter have to do with me?" The directness of the question stunned Espiranza. She had replayed the conversation 1,000 times in her head on the taxi ride, but now the words refused to come. "My daughter has leukemia," she began, her voice growing firmer with each word. "She's 7 years old. Her name is Sofia. She's all I have in life. The doctors say there's a new treatment in Bogota that can save her, but it costs 50 million pesos, and I have less than 2 days to get it." Sebastian listened in silence. There was no trickery or manipulation in her speech, only brutal honesty. "And what do you suggest I do?" he asked. Espiranza felt herself suffocating. This was the part she dreaded most. "I've heard that there are men who pay for company." The words came out in a whisper. "I'm not that kind of woman, senor. I have never done anything like this, but for my daughter, for her, I would do anything." Sebastian leaned back in his chair, studying her. In his world of lies and hidden interests, this woman shone like a ray of light. He could see how every word hurt her. "And what do you offer in exchange for these 50 million? "One night," Espiranza answered, closing her eyes. "One night with me, and then you will never see me again." Silence hung between them. Espiranza could hear her heart beating loudly. "I agree," Sebastian finally said. Esperanza's eyes widened, a mixture of relief and horror. "But I have one condition," he continued, and his voice softened. "I do not want your body, Espiranza. I want you to spend the night with me. Tell me about your life. Make me feel human again. In return, you will have your money at dawn tomorrow." Espiranza looked at him as if he were speaking an unfamiliar language. "Excuse me? I spent the last 15 years building an empire, but somewhere along the way, I lost the ability to feel connected to other people." Sebastian took a sip of whiskey. "Tonight, I don't want to be the CEO of Castillo Industries. I just want to be Sebastian, and I want to know a woman who would sacrifice everything for her daughter." "I don't understand," Espiranza shook her head. Why would you do that for me? You don't even know me. Because a long time ago, there was a girl in my life who needed saving too, and I couldn't do it. Sebastian's eyes darkened. Espiranza felt something stir in her chest. This wasn't what she expected. But maybe this was better. Are you sure, she asked. Just to talk? Nothing more. Just to talk, he confirmed, rising from the table. I have a suite on the 21st floor. We can order the most exquisite dinner you've ever had, and you can tell me all about Sofia. As they rode up in the elevator, Esperanza wondered if she was making the biggest mistake of her life, or if she had just found a miracle. The elevator doors opened on the 21st floor, and Sebastian led her up to a suite that was larger than her entire apartment. Welcome, Esperanza, he said as he opened the door. Tonight is the night we'll really get to know each other. Esperanza walked into the suite feeling like Alice falling down the rabbit hole. She didn't know what to expect in the next few hours, but for the first time in days, she felt a real spark of hope. Maybe miracles really did exist. The presidential suite at the Dan Carlton Hotel was more luxurious than Esperanza had ever imagined. The huge windows showed the lights of Medellin spread out like a blanket of stars, and the furniture looked like it had been pulled out of a glossy design magazine. Sebastian loosened his tie and poured himself another whiskey. Would you like something to drink? Wine, maybe. I don't drink alcohol, Esperanza replied, still standing by the door. I need to keep my head clear to take care of Sofia. Water and juice, then. Sebastian opened the minibar. Please, sit down. I'm not going to bite you. Esperanza sat on the edge of the leather sofa, her hands on her knees. Everything about the place screamed money, and she felt more out of place than ever. Tell me about her, Sebastian said, sitting down in the chair opposite her. About Sofia. Esperanza's eyes immediately lit up. She's the bravest girl you'll ever meet, she began, her voice filling with maternal pride. When she was diagnosed with leukemia 2 years ago, on the first day of chemotherapy, she said to me, Mommy, don't cry. Butterflies also have to go through terrible things before they can fly beautifully. Sebastian felt something stir in his chest. How old was she when she was diagnosed? 5, Esperanza smiled sadly. She was so little, but she understood more than most adults. On Sundays, when she doesn't have to go to the hospital, we dance salsa in our pajamas. She says it's our sacred tradition that no one has the right to interrupt. And the father? No father, Esperanza answered without bitterness. He never really existed. When I told him I was pregnant, he said he wasn't ready to be a father and disappeared. You know what? We don't need him. Sofia never asked about him. I think she understands that some children just need a lot of love from one person, not a little from two. Sebastian ordered room service. Amara, salmon, expensive wine. But while they waited, they continued talking. How do you manage to work and take care of her at the same time? The night shifts are a gift, Esperanza explained. I work when she's asleep, and during the day I can take her to her appointments. My colleagues at the hospital help me a lot. When Sofia's in the hospital, I practically live there with her. It must be exhausting. Fatigue doesn't matter when you love someone that much. Esperanza looked at him straight. Do you have children? The question dropped like a stone into still water. Sebastian took a long sip of whiskey before answering. No, I've never married. I never had children. Work was always more important. Why? The question was simple, but Sebastian felt it was laying him bare, because it was easier to control numbers on a spreadsheet than people's feelings, he finally answered. In business, everything is governed by clear rules. Emotions are chaos. Dinner arrived, but neither of them ate much. They were too absorbed in their conversation. You said you had a girl in your life too? Esperanza dared to ask. Sebastian was silent for a few minutes, looking out the window at the lights of the city. My sister Isabella, he finally said. She was 20 years younger than me. I was 15 when she was born, and I was more of a father to her than an older brother. His voice became softer, more vulnerable. She was 8 when she was diagnosed with cancer, the same type as Sofia, leukemia. There weren't as many treatments back then as there are now. What happened? She fought for 2 years. 2 years while I watched this beautiful girl get smaller, weaker. Sebastian closed his eyes. I was only a teenager, but I swore that when I grew up, I would have enough money so that no more girls would die for lack of resources. Is that why you were so successful? At first, yes, but then it became an obsession. Making money. Money, more and more. As if every extra peso could bring her back. Sebastian laughed without joy. My mother never recovered from losing Isabella. She cried in her room all the time. My father started drinking, and I went to work. Esperanza felt the urge to console him, but she didn't know if she should. What was she like? Sebastian's eyes lit up for the first time that evening. Like Sofia, I imagine. Brave, full of life despite her illness. She loved butterflies. She said that when she died, she would become the most beautiful butterfly in the world, so she could watch over us from the sky. She probably does, Esperanza whispered. Sometimes I think so too. Sebastian looked at her. Sometimes I think she sent you to me tonight. There was silence between them, but it was not awkward. It was the silence of two people sharing their deepest wounds. Do you know what hurts me the most? Esperanza said. Sofia never asked why, never complained, never cried because she was sick. She only asked when we will be able to fly like butterflies. And they will fly, Sebastian said confidently. With this treatment, they will fly as high as they want. They spent the rest of the night talking. Esperanza told of the sleepless nights by Sofia's side during fevers, of the drawings the girl made for the nurses at the hospital, of her dream of becoming a doctor to treat all the sick children in the world. Sebastian told of his loneliness, of how he had built an empire but lost the ability to connect with people, of how every professional success seemed empty because he had no one to share it with. As the sun began to rise over the mountains surrounding Medellin, they both realized they had talked for 8 hours straight. It's time, Sebastian said, standing up to pick up his checkbook. A deal is a deal. He wrote out a check for 50 million pesos and handed it to Esperanza. She looked at it as if it were the most valuable thing in the world. It's not for tonight, Esperanza, he said, taking her hands. It's because your daughter deserves the chance mine never had. Esperanza began to cry, not from sadness but from pure relief. I don't know how to thank you. I don't know how. You don't have to thank me. Sebastian headed for the door. Just take care of Sofia. Love her as much as I loved Isabella. Sebastian, wait! Esperanza stood up. Can I see you again? Call you to tell me how it's going? Sebastian paused, his hand on the doorknob. For a moment he seemed to consider the possibility, but then he shook his head. We shouldn't see each other anymore, Esperanza. It was wonderful, but I'm not the man for a woman like you. You deserve someone who can give you real love, not just money. And with that, he walked out of the room, leaving Esperanza alone, with a check that would have saved her daughter's life and an emptiness in her chest she didn't expect to feel. 3 months had passed since the night that changed everything. Esperanza walked through the gardens of the San Vicente Hospital, pushing the wheelchair in which Sofia was resting after a session of physical therapy. The girl had gained weight again, her hair had begun to grow, and most importantly, the test showed that she was in complete remission. Mommy, why aren't you smiling? Sofia asked, turning to look at her mother. Dr. Mendoza says I'm almost cured. Esperanza forced a smile. It was true, she should have been jumping for joy, but something had been bothering her since they returned from the rich. I'm happy, my love, happier than you can imagine. Then why do you cry at night when you think I'm asleep? Children can see what adults try to hide. Esperanza knelt down in front of the chair. Sometimes people cry over good things that are impossible, princess. Like when you meet someone special and you can't be with them. Sofia frowned, thinking, You mean the gentleman who helped us? Esperanza was surprised. She had never told her how she got the money. How did you know about him? Dr. Mendoza said that a very kind gentleman donated money for my operation. He said he was an angel. Yes, he was an angel, Esperanza whispered. They had tried to contact Sebastian several times. Esperanza had called his company, gone to his office, even gone back to the Don Carlton Hotel, but he had disappeared as if he had never existed. He changed his phone number and gave strict instructions not to disturb him. Mom, can we go to the park? I want to draw real butterflies. Of course, my love. On the way to the park, they stopped at a cafe at the hospital. Dr. Mendoza was there, reading the newspaper and beaming with joy. Esperanza, Sofia, I have incredible news. He approached them, newspaper in hand. Remember when I told you about the mysterious donation to the hospital? Yes, doctor, they replied. New equipment for the oncology ward. Well, the official check has arrived. 500 million pesos to establish the Isabella ward. Dr. Mendoza was beaming. This is the largest donation in the history of our hospital. Esperanza's heart sank. The Isabella ward? Yes. The donor asked to name it that way, in honor of the girl who died of cancer. We will be able to help hundreds of children like Sofia. Espiranza immediately knew who the donor was. Isabella, Sebastian's sister. Do you know who made the donation? It was anonymous, but it came from the Schustery office. Someone very generous, I guess. That night, after putting Sofia to bed, Esperanza couldn't fall asleep. She sat on the balcony of her apartment and looked at the lights of the city. Sebastian had donated 10 times more than he had given her. He had saved not only Sofia, but hundreds of other children. Why had he hidden from her? Why didn't he want to know how Sofia was doing? The next day, she decided to go straight to the industry's office. It was a glass and steel building in downtown Medellin. She felt small and insignificant as she walked up to the reception desk. Good morning. I would like to speak to Mr. Sebastian Costilla, she said. The receptionist, an elegant woman in her 30s, glanced at her. Do you have an appointment? She asked. No, but it's urgent. It concerns the Isabella department at the San Vicente Hospital. Mr. Costilla is on a business trip to Europe. He won't be back for a few months. Could you give me his phone number? It's important. Sorry, but we can't give out personal information about our executives. Esperanza left the building feeling defeated. She had come all this way, but he was still out of reach. 2 weeks later, on a Sunday afternoon, she decided to take Sofia to Parque Lloros. The girl insisted on taking her sketchbook with her. She wanted to draw more butterflies. Mommy, look at all those pigeons. Sofia pointed to the bench where the man was feeding the birds. Esperanza followed her finger and felt like the world had stopped. It was him. Sebastian was sitting on the bench, wearing jeans and a simple white shirt. Not at all like that night at the hotel. He looked thinner, tired, but still the same man who had changed her life. Sofia, stay here for a while, she told her daughter, and walked slowly toward the bench. Sebastian, she called him softly. He turned around, surprised. Their eyes met, and for a moment time stood still. Esperanza, I thought I would never see you again, he said. You underestimate your mother's determination, she replied with a smile. Sebastian stood up from the bench, looking nervous, as if he wanted to run away. How is Sofia? Go meet her and see for yourself. Before he could object, Sofia had already run up to them with natural childish curiosity. Are you the angel that Mommy said saved me? She asked bluntly, looking at Sebastian with her big eyes. Sebastian knelt down to be level with her. When Sofia spontaneously hugged him, he felt something inside his chest break. I'm not an angel, baby. I'm just a man who met 2 angels in my life, you and your mother. I knew you were good, Sofia said, pulling away from the hug. Mom cries at night because she can't see you. She says sometimes people cry over good things that can't be. Sebastian looked at Esperanza in surprise. You cried because of me? Esperanza blushed, but she couldn't lie. Yes, since that night I can't stop thinking about you. Not only because of what you did for Sofia, but also because of how I felt when we were together. Esperanza, Do you think about me too? She asked bluntly. Sebastian looked into her eyes and in that moment decided to be honest. Every day since I left that hotel. Then why did you hide from me? Because I thought that after I saved your daughter, you wouldn't want to know anything more about me. I thought you'd see me as a reminder of the worst night of your life. Sebastian, Esperanza took his hand. It wasn't the worst night of my life. It was the night I met the most noble man I've ever known. Sofia, who had been listening to their conversation the whole time, intervened with childish wisdom. You like each other? The adults looked at each other and laughed. Yes, they answered simultaneously. Then why don't you kiss like in the movies? Sebastian looked at Esperanza, as if asking permission with his eyes. She nodded softly. When their lips met, soft and gentle, Sofia clapped her hands in joy. I knew you were meant to be together, she cried like butterflies flying together. Sebastian hugged them both for the first time in 15 years, feeling complete. Do you think you can give a chance to a man who loves you with all his heart? He whispered in Esperanza's ear. I think I already have, she replied, hugging him tighter. The next 6 months were the happiest of Esperanza's life. Sebastian became a part of her daily routine, and more importantly, Sofia adored him. Sunday mornings became sacred. They had breakfast together in the apartment, then went to the park where Sofia fed the pigeons while she and Sebastian talked about everything and nothing. Mom, is Sebastian going to be my dad? Sofia asked one day, coloring pictures at the kitchen table. Esperanza almost choked on her coffee. Why do you think so, love? Because he loves me like dads love their daughters, and you look at him like moms look at dads in the movies. Sebastian, who had just returned from work, overheard the conversation at the door. Would you like it if I were your dad? He asked, approaching the table. Yes, Sofia screamed, throwing herself into his arms. You would be the best dad in the world. Esperanza's heart was filled with warmth, but also fear. Everything was too good, and life had already taught her that happiness always comes at a price. That price came a week later in the form of an elegant woman in her 60s who knocked on the door of the apartment on Saturday morning. Espiranza Morales? The woman asked, looking her up and down with obvious disapproval. Yes, how can I help you? I'm Carmen Costilla, Sebastian's mother. We need to talk. The name fell on her like a bucket of cold water. Esperanza knew this moment would come one day. Please come in. Doña Carmen entered the modest apartment as if she were inspecting a house for sale. Her critical gaze slid over the simple furniture, the photographs of Sofia on the walls, the plastic table where the girl was eating breakfast. Where is the girl? At my sister's. Would you like something to drink? No, thank you. It won't take long. Doña Carmen sat on the edge of the sofa, as if afraid of being infected by poverty. I came to talk about your relationship with my son. What do you want to know? I want this to end. Now. The directness of the statement stunned Esperanza. Forgive me, you know perfectly well what I'm talking about. Sebastian is obsessed with you, and it must end. He has responsibilities, a future, a reputation. I love your son, Señora Costilla. Do you? Doña Carmen sneered with disdain. You love his money. You've already received 50 million for one night with him. How much longer are you going to survive? Esperanza felt as if she'd been slapped in the face. That money was used to save my daughter's life. Please don't make a fool of me. I know women like you very well. You take advantage of men's kindness until you leave them with nothing. I'm not that kind of woman. Then explain to me how a hospital nurse ended up with my son, one of the richest men in Colombia. Doña Carmen leaned forward. My Sebastian is vulnerable when it comes to sick children because of his sister. Did you take advantage of this weakness? I never. Listen to me carefully. Doña Carmen's voice turned icy. My family has built an empire for 3 generations. I will not let a huntress like you ruin it. If you do not end this relationship willingly, I will make your life hell. You are threatening me. I am giving you a chance to do the right thing. Leave my son, and I will make sure you and your daughter live in comfort. Continue this farce, and you will all suffer. Get out of my house. Think carefully, Esperanza. There are no fairy tales in life. After Doña Carmen left, Esperanza sank to the living room floor, shaking. The woman's words had touched her deepest fears. What if she was right? What if Espiranza really wasn't good enough for Sebastian? Things got even worse when Sofia returned from her aunt's house and began telling her that children had bullied her in the park. They said that my mother... Sofia stopped, fighting back tears. That's a bad word. I don't want to repeat it, that's why we have money now. Esperanza hugged her daughter, feeling her world crumbling around her. The situation exploded completely a week later, when a tabloid journalist published a front-page story in one of the city's most widely read newspapers. Millionaire pays 50 million for a night with a nurse. The article was a mix of half-truth and outright lies, but the damage was done. There was a photo of Espiranza entering the hospital, another of Sebastian leaving his office, and speculation about their business deal at the hospital. Espiranza faced looks of pity and condemnation. The colleagues who had previously supported her now whispered behind her back as she passed. Patients looked at her differently. Even Dr. Mendoza seemed awkward when talking to her. Esperanza, maybe you should take a few days off, the head nurse suggested, until things calm down. Things were even worse at Sofia's school. The other children heard their parents discussing the scandal and pointed reproachfully at the girl. "Your mother is a bad woman," a boy shouted during recess. Sofia came home crying for the first time since her cancer treatment began. "Mom, why do people say bad things about you?" Esperanza didn't know what to say. How do you explain the complexities of social prejudice to a 7-year-old? That night, when Sebastian came to the apartment, he found Esperanza packing a suitcase. "What are you doing?" "I'm going to visit my sister in Bogota with Sofia for a while." "Why? What happened?" Esperanza showed him the newspaper. Sebastian read the article, and his face turned red with anger. "This is nonsense. I'm going to sue that newspaper." "No, Sebastian." Esperanza shook her head. "It's too late. The damage is done." "What are you talking about? Your mother came to see me. The neighbors are whispering. At the hospital, they look at me like I'm what that article says, and Sofia?" Her voice broke. "The kids at school are bullying her." Sebastian put his arm around her, but she gently pulled away. "Esperanza, we'll get through this together." "Okay." Tears rolled down her cheeks. "We're from two different worlds. I'll always be that poor nurse who slept with a millionaire for money, and Sofia will carry that shame for the rest of her life." "It's not true." Esperanza looked him in the eye. "Your family accepts me, your friends, the society you move in." Sebastian couldn't answer right away, and that silence was the answer Esperanza had been waiting for. "I love you, Sebastian, more than I ever thought I could love anyone," she said. "But I can't live in a fishbowl where everyone who sees us together judges me. And I can't let Sofia grow up with the stigma of what I did to save her." "If that's what you want, I respect your decision," Sebastian finally said, his voice breaking. "But I want you to know that these have been the best months of my life." "And mine too," Esperanza whispered. "That's why it hurts." Sebastian walked over to Sofia, who was listening from her room. "Do you care about Mommy a lot?" "Yes," he said, hugging her tightly. "Aren't you coming with us?" "No, baby, sometimes adults have to make difficult decisions. But you will come visit us." Sebastian looked at Espiranza, who shook her head gently. "I will think about you every day," Sofia promised. "And when you grow up, you will understand that everything we did was out of love." That night, Espiranza and Sofia took the bus to Bogota, leaving behind not only Medellin, but also the greatest love Espiranza had ever known. From the bus window, as the city receded, Sofia asked, "Mom, will we ever come back?" Esperanza looked back at the lights fading into the distance and felt like she was leaving her heart in this city. "I don't know, dear. I don't know." 6 months had passed since Esperanza and Sofia had left for Bogota. The captain had given them shelter, but he hadn't erased the emptiness they both felt. Esperanza worked at the charity hospital, trying to rebuild her life. But at night, when she thought Sofia was asleep, she continued to cry quietly. "Mom," Sofia said one morning at breakfast, "can I ask you something?" "Of course, dear. Do you still love Sebastian?" Esperanza was taken aback by her daughter's direct question. She tried to hide her pain, but children always know more than they let on. "Why do you ask?" "Because you often sigh when you see couples on the street. And why do you keep a photo of the three of you together in your nightstand drawer?" Esperanza couldn't lie to her daughter. "Yes, Sofia, I love him very much. And he loves us, I think." "Yes." "Then why aren't we together?" "Because sometimes, my dear, loving someone means leaving them to protect them." Sofia frowned, thinking, that sounds so stupid. Sometimes adults do stupid things. That same day, while Espiranza was working at the hospital, Sofia made a decision. With the help of her Aunt Elena, she found the address of Costilla Industries on the internet and wrote a letter in the shaky handwriting of an 8-year-old. "Dear Sebastian, I am Sofia. I hope you remember me. I am the girl with the butterflies. Mom cries every night when she thinks I am asleep. She says she loves you very much, but we can't be together because people are mean. I think that if two people love each other, they should be together, like butterflies that fly in pairs. Do you love us?" "I think so. Can you come get us?" "I promise to be the best daughter in the world. With love, Sofia. P.S. Mom doesn't know I am writing to you. Meanwhile, in Medellin, Sebastian immersed himself in work. His office became his refuge. He worked late into the night to avoid thinking about what he had lost. His co-workers noticed that he had become more serious and withdrawn. Doña Carmen had achieved her goal. Her son had broken off the unsuitable relationship, but she had not expected to see him so unhappy. Sebastian, son, you need to go out and meet people of your social level, she would say during family dinners. Mendoza's daughter is single, very beautiful, and well-mannered. I don't care, Mom. You will regret that woman for the rest of your life. That woman has a name, Espiranza. Exactly. Don't you see the irony? She kept you hooked, giving you false hope. Sebastian put the cutlery on the table. You know what, Mom? Espiranza taught me something you never could. That a person's worth is not in their bank account, but in the size of their heart. She would have given her life for her daughter, would have done anything, even the things that hurt her the most, to save her. And you ruined my happiness to protect your social status. That same week, a letter arrived from Sofia, the receptionist at Castilla Industries, intrigued by the pink envelope with butterflies, handed it directly to Sebastian. When Sebastian read it, he felt like he was suffocating. The innocence of those words, the pure love of a girl who just wanted her family to be together, completely broke him. That night, unable to sleep, he got up and went to the window of his penthouse, looking at the lights of Medellin. What have I been doing? How did I let the prejudices of others ruin the only real and true thing I had in my life? The next day, he made the most important decision of his life, calling a press conference that shook the entire country. Sebastian Costilla, one of Colombia's richest men, has publicly given up most of his wealth. Today I am announcing the creation of the Isabella Costilla Foundation, he told the cameras. I am donating 80% of my wealth to this foundation. It will help low-income families whose children are suffering from cancer. The journalists were stunned. Why are you making this decision, Mr. Costilla? Because I have learned that true wealth is not in what you have, but in the love you give and receive. I learned this from an amazing woman and her daughter, who showed me that a person's worth is not measured by their bank account, but by the size of their heart. Is this declaration related to the rumors about your affair with nurse Espiranza Morales? She is not just a nurse. She is the bravest, most noble, and most generous woman I have ever known. She is a person who is willing to sacrifice everything for love, and she is the woman I am deeply in love with. The video of the press conference went viral within hours. In Bogota, Espiranza saw it on the hospital news and sat up, shaking. Dr. Morales, are you okay? A colleague asked. I need some fresh air. That night, Sebastian showed up at the door of their apartment in Bogota. He had been in secret contact with Dr. Mendoza, who had given him the address. He was holding a bouquet of paper butterflies. Each one he had made himself. Espiranza opened the door and was stunned. Hello, he said quietly. I saw your press conference on the news. I didn't come here like the millionaire I used to be. Sebastian handed her the bouquet. I came as the man I am, the man who loves you and your daughter more than any wealth in the world. Espiranza's eyes filled with tears. Did you get my letter? Sofia cried, running out of her room to embrace him. I got it, little one, and you're right. Butterflies that love each other should fly together. Have you come back to stay? Sofia asked. If Mama allows it, I'll stay forever. Espiranza approached him, still not believing that he was here. You gave up your fortune for us. I haven't lost anything. On the contrary, I've finally understood what's really important. Sebastian took her hands. Your money has never been important to me, Espiranza. You were the only thing that mattered to me. Your money wasn't important to me either, she whispered. You were the only thing that mattered. So you forgive me for being a coward? So you forgive me for running away? No more running away, he said, moving closer to kiss her. When their lips met, Sofia clapped her hands in delight. I knew you'd come back. I wrote you this letter because I knew you loved us. Sebastian knelt down in front of Sofia. Did you write this letter? Yes, Mom didn't know anything, she replied. I just wanted us to be a family. Sofia Morales, Sebastian said solemnly. You're the wisest girl I know. Will you let me officially be your daddy? Yes, she cried, throwing herself into his arms. Sebastian looked at Esperanza. Will you let me be your husband? Are you asking me for this? Espiranza Morales. Sebastian stood up, still holding Sofia in his arms. Will you marry me? I don't have much money to offer you, but I have a heart that is completely yours. Yes, she said, crying with happiness. 1,000 times. Yes. 3 years later, in an intimate ceremony in the same Medellin park, where they met again, Esperanza and Sebastian were married. Sofia was the flower girl, carrying the bridal bouquet, wearing a white dress embroidered with butterflies. During the ceremony, a flock of monarch butterflies magically appeared above them, fluttering around their small family as they exchanged vows. I promise to love you for richer and for poorer, Sebastian said. I promise to be with you in health and in sickness, Esperanza replied. And I promise to be the best daughter in the world, Sofia shouted, making everyone in the room laugh. In their new home, a cozy house in the middle-class neighborhood where they had chosen to live, Sebastian ran the Isabella Foundation from a small but loving office. He worked directly with families who were going through situations similar to Esperanza's and found a purpose that money could never give him. That night, as they watched Sofia play in the backyard, Esperanza clung to her husband. You know what's so beautiful about this? She said. What? That what started out as the worst night of my life turned into the first day of our love story. Sebastian tightened his arms around her. And to think that I almost let other people's prejudices ruin it all. But you didn't. In the end, love won. Look, Sofia called from the garden. Real butterflies want to celebrate with us too. Sure enough, a flock of butterflies appeared in their garden, as if blessing their love that had overcome all odds. Sebastian and Esperanza walked towards their daughter, forming a perfect circle as butterflies danced around them, proving that sometimes fate finds mysterious ways to bring souls together that are destined to be together. True love had won, and this family of three had learned that no obstacle was big enough when there was faith, hope, and, most importantly, love. It had been 5 years since Esperanza and Sebastian's wedding, and 8 years since that desperate night at the Dunkton Hotel that changed their lives forever. The morning sun was streaming through the windows of the Isabella Costal Foundation, now internationally recognized as one of the most effective organizations treating childhood cancer in Latin America. On the walls hung hundreds of drawings made by children who had gone through their programs, and in the center of the waiting room stood a statue of a butterfly with a plaque, in memory of Isabel Costilla and in honor of all the children who have found their wings. Espiranza, now the Foundation's medical director, was reviewing the files of the new families who would receive assistance this week. At 35, she exuded a quiet happiness that was reflected in her every gesture. Her hair, now longer, was pulled back into a practical ponytail, and her wedding ring glittered as she flipped through the pages. Good morning, Dr. Morales, said Patricia, the receptionist, peeking around the door. The Rodriguez family had already arrived for their 9 a.m. appointment. Give them 5 minutes, please. I want to check your baby's file again. On her desk was a recent photo of the family. Herself, Sebastian, Sofia, now 13, and little Samuel too, asleep in his dad's arms while Sofia made funny faces to amuse the toddler. The phone rang. It was Sebastian's voice. How's your morning going? Very well, she replied. I just checked the numbers for last month. We've helped 43 new families. It's incredible. You know, sometimes I pinch myself to make sure it's all real. Do you mean the foundation or us? All of it. That I have the most beautiful family in the world, that we really are changing lives, that Sofia is perfectly healthy. Speaking of Sofia, she's already gone to school. Yes, but not without leaving me a list of everything she wants for her birthday. It looks like she wants to invite all the children from the foundation. Espiranza smiled. Her daughter, now a confident teenager full of compassion, shared her passion for helping other sick children. Every weekend, she volunteered at the foundation, teaching the little ones how to make paper butterflies and telling them stories of hope. Katie, Sebastian continued, Samuel is already awake and asks about his mom every 5 minutes. Tell him that mommy is coming home early today. I want to be home when Sofia gets home from school. Today is something special. She's giving a presentation to social studies about unusual families, and she's going to talk about us. That same day, Espiranza arrived home just as Sofia was getting off the school bus. The daughter had grown up, but she still had that bright smile that had brightened the darkest days in the hospital. "Mommy," Sofia cried, throwing herself into her arms. "Guess what happened at my presentation? Tell me everything." They walked into the house where Sebastian was playing on the floor with Samuel, building towers of blocks that the little boy knocked over with an infectious laugh. "Dad," Sofia dropped to the floor to hug them both. "My presentation was incredible. What did you tell your classmates?" Sebastian asked, holding Samuel in one arm and hugging Sofia with the other. "I told our story. How Mom saved my life. How you appeared like an angel to help us. How you fell in love. How we had to be apart for a while because people didn't understand our love. And how in the end we won, because true love always wins." "And what did your classmates say?" "Maria Jose cried and said that our family was like a fairy tale, but real. And Andres said that when he grows up, he wants to find a love like yours." Esperanza felt her eyes fill with proud tears. "You know what the best thing is?" Sofia continued. "What was I able to tell them? That my mother is no longer just a nurse, but a doctor and the director of the most important foundation in the country. And my dad is famous not because he's rich, but because he helps thousands of children." "What did you tell them about Samuel? That he's proof that miracles happen twice in the same family?" Sofia kissed her little brother's head, because after everything we'd been through, God had given us another perfect, healthy baby. That night, after putting Samuel to bed, the three of them sat in the back garden. Sofia had a surprise for them, inviting 30 children from the foundation to teach them how to make paper butterflies under the stars. "Ready for a butterfly lesson?" asked Sofia, who at 13 was already an expert. The children, aged 5 to 12, sat in a circle as Sofia demonstrated how to fold colored paper to create perfect butterflies. "Do you know why butterflies are special?" she asked as she folded the paper. "Because they are beautiful," cried a 6-year-old girl. "That is one reason, but there is another, more important one," Sofia replied, looking at her parents watching from the terrace. "Butterflies are special because before they become beautiful, they have to go through very difficult moments. First, they are caterpillars that cannot fly. Then they lock themselves in a dark and small place and think that they will never be able to get out." The children listened with full attention. "But when they come out, they are completely different, free. They can fly wherever they want and more beautifully than they ever imagined." "Like when we are sick?" asked a boy wearing a cap to hide his bald head. "Exactly like that. When we are sick," confirmed Sofia. "Sometimes we have to go through hardships to become the people we are meant to be." Esperanza and Sebastian came up to the circle. "Can I tell you a secret?" said Esperanza among the children. "Yes," they all cried. "Many years ago, when Sofia was sick, like some of you, I felt like a caterpillar. I didn't know how to help her. I was so scared and I thought we would never be able to fly together." "So what happened?" asked one boy. "I met this man." She pointed to Sebastian, who also felt like a caterpillar. He had lost his little sister to the same disease as Sofia and thought he would never be happy again. "And you helped each other?" asked the same girl. "Yes," confirmed Sebastian. "And now we are a family of butterflies." "And I will become a butterfly too," exclaimed the boy in the cap. "All of you will become butterflies," said Sofia confidently. "I promise." When all the children had left with their families, taking paper butterflies with them as a symbol of hope, Sofia hugged her parents in the garden. "You know what?" she said, looking at the starry sky. "I think Isabella is proud of us." "Why do you think that?" asked Sebastian. "Look," Sofia pointed to the sky. A moth appeared and circled perfectly above their heads before landing softly on the butterfly statue in the garden. "That's her," Sebastian whispered. "Isabella, telling us we did everything right." At that moment, Esperanza felt a kick in her stomach, smiled, and placed her hand on her belly, where their third child was growing. "Have you told Samuel yet that he's going to be a big brother?" she asked. "He's too young to understand," Sebastian replied. "But Sofia's already planning on teaching him how to make paper butterflies." "This family's going to be perfect," Sofia said. "2 loving dads, 3 adoring children, and a foundation that helps thousands of children. What more could you want?" Esperanza looked around. a husband who found his calling by helping others, a daughter who grew up full of compassion and wisdom. Their little Samuel slept peacefully at home, and the baby in her belly grew. The foundation they built together helped more than 1,000 families, and every day there were new stories of children who had found their wings. "You know what's most incredible?" she said to Sebastian, as Sofia ran into the house to check if Samuel was awake. "That night in the hotel, when I thought I was losing my dignity to save my daughter, I was actually finding my purpose. I thought I was buying a night of company, but I was really buying the rest of my life." "You didn't buy anything," Espiranza kissed her tenderly. "Love can't be bought. It's found when you least expect it, in your darkest moments, and it turns you into someone you never thought you could be." Sebastian hugged her, feeling the baby kick between them. "What do you think we'll name this little miracle? If it's a girl, I'd like to call her Isabella, after the girl who brought us together from heaven. And if it's a boy, Espiranza," she smiled, "because this family is the one who gave us endless hope." That night, as the family slept, the last butterfly flew over the garden, as if blessing the family, who had learned that the most beautiful endings often come from the most desperate beginnings, and that true love, when pure and selfless, has the power to transform not only those who experience it, but everyone whose life it touches. The story of Esperanza and Sebastian became a legend in the corridors of the San Vicente Hospital, where a plaque in memory of Isabel reminded everyone that miracles sometimes come in the guise of despair, and the most beautiful butterflies always emerge from the darkest cocoons. And in the Medellin sky, among the stars, the eternal butterfly smiled, knowing that its mission was accomplished. It had led two lost souls to love, and that love had blossomed to touch thousands of lives. The circle was complete, and hope had finally found its home.